Well, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depends on when you see this. We're in a kind of an unusual mood today when we do this film. Today, we're filming it on the Monday morning after the hurricane and all the devastation in parts of the 5 or 6 states, and certainly in western North Carolina. And so, what we were going to do originally, we're not going to do now. We got another topic, and we're going to take the words from the famous North Carolinian, the great singer James Taylor, uh, his song "You Got a Friend." I'm going to talk a little bit about what it's like in a small town when you get hit pretty hard lick by weather. In this case, a very hard lick by weather. I'm sure you've all seen the videos on the same tube that you're watching us on now. And we're going to talk a little bit about the past. I can remember growing up here in Fairmont as a young boy, a child, and Hurricane Hazel came through in the mid 50s and devastated a lot of our community. I don't remember too much about that. I do remember the snows that we've had here in Fairmont that locked people down in their houses for 2 or 3 days, and the hurricanes that we've had, Matthew and Hugo and the others that knocked trees down and all. But we've never ever experienced, to my knowledge, the devastation that you're seeing on Facebook, that I'm seeing on Facebook in the news, that's going on in western North Carolina and parts of Georgia and the upstate of South Carolina and Tennessee. I wouldn't know even how to begin to discuss that. So, what we want to talk to you today about is how can small towns who haven't been affected and who have a big heart, such as Fairmont and others, I'm sure like us, can reach out and help people that really are in desperate need of help. And because Mr. Chestnut is tied in with the police department, the fire department, the other agencies, organizations, uh, we're going to talk about how we can do our part. It may be little, but our part to help out the people that are suffering in the western parts of our state and in other areas. Mr. Chestnut, you've got more knowledge and more connections with the people that have the means and the wherewithal to do that. So why don't you tell us some of the things that you know that we can do?
Most definitely, Mr. Mayor, and you're correct with the level of devastation that we're seeing on the news media about what's happening right now in Western North Carolina. It's funny you bring up, or coincidentally you bring up, Hurricane Hazel. My grandmother told me about Hurricane Hazel when I was coming up, and the one thing that she left me with was that when Hurricane Hazel came through, it sounded like a freight train. And it left massive amounts of devastation across southeastern North Carolina. So what we're seeing is something that I don't recall if it's happened in Western North Carolina in the recent past. I don't recall this. So one of the things that southeastern North Carolina, we deal with this stuff a lot with hurricanes in a coastal community, especially with the rivers and canals that run through our small towns. So we're used to dealing with water, but what they're facing is landslides,
Yeah.
not having water, not having food, entire communities being cut off. And, we want to help that. I didn't know where to start because, we're small towns with limited funds. Uh, but our police chief called me on Saturday and he said, Jerome, I have this idea how we can support them. And he goes, I have officers who want to volunteer and go up there. And I said, hey, this is a great thing.
It is a wonderful thing.
And I'm all behind it. This is just a little part of what we can do. So, having that conversation and just immediately giving him the approval to move forward with, setting things in a plan. And then I called yourself and I called each one of my commissioners last night, and each one of you was in support of this. So
I knew they would.
yeah, so I'm grateful to have a mayor and board of commissioners that not only cares about our citizens here in this town, but also care about other communities that are struggling. So we're gonna launch, a small team up to Western North Carolina today. And we're also, and this is something we just talked about before we started this video, is we're going to create a staging area to collect supplies and send them up there also in support of those communities.
We've always done those kinds of things. Fairmont people have wonderful hearts.
Yes, yes. And you know, we've talked numerous times, you know, this just again is another sign of I'm in the right place of where, you know, people care about each other, just not in our, not only about our citizens in our town limits, but people all across the states. And this is something that, you know, as we go forward, this brings our community closer together to go after, you know, offering assistance to other communities in the western part of the state. And it's near and dear to me. I explained to you before, I was a recruiter in western North Carolina from 2000 to 2003, and a very lovely and supported and very good communities up in western North Carolina.
Those are wonderful people up there, yeah.
Most definitely.
And the videos I've seen on Facebook, these are people that are not devastated emotionally.
That's right.
They're just accepting of what has happened because it's in God's plan.
That's right.
And are prepared to start building over again immediately.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could be
It's
that
hard.
way. That'd be, you know, I've never been through that. I don't know how I could accept that.
Yes, and I think, you know, I was reading an article this morning about Columbus County. Columbus County launched a team up to Western North Carolina this past Saturday. And their manager sent back an email this morning about things that he's seen. And the devastation, the cutoff, the no water, the no supplies, those things, you know, just, it's hard to hear and it's hard to read. And I'm glad we're able to jump in on this, you know, and this was prior to me reading that email about what Manager Madden saw. So, you know, us as a small town, we're doing our part to support our sisters and brothers across the state. And because we don't know, we may be calling them a couple of months from now, asking them to help us. So we're teaming all of this.
If you're from Asheville or Boone or Montreat or Lake Lure, you listen carefully, because Fairmont may not be able to give you a lot. We may not come with the world, but we're going to bring you some officers and some supplies as soon as we can get off of this video today. We're going to plan to set aside a piece of our town property as a staging area, and we're going to get the word out to the Fairmont community that they can bring things, and we're going to get the church group that's very famous for doing this, and we'll get it up there to you. You've got a friend in Fairmont.
That's right.
I can promise you that.
Most definitely.
Thank you for listening, and God bless you, and I hope we hope you come through this in shining way.
Most definitely.